Mm.
I remember block parties in my old neighborhood, and then they just stopped. What happened? Welcome to Homemade. I'm Shannon Cason. Block parties. We used to have block parties all the time on 19th Street in Ecorse. I grew up, I would say I grew up in Ecorse. I'm from the west side of Detroit, but when my mom and dad split up, when they split up, we moved to Ecorse and on the 19 block, the 19th Street. And on 19th Street, they would shut down the block on both ends and we would have this big block party. And it was exciting. Like when you're having a block party, it's exciting. All the kids on the street, we talking about the races. We talking big stuff like who will win in the race, the bike race that we have. And then the older people talking about who will win with the best barbecue. It's all competition. It's still competition. Soul music, people playing soul music, putting their speakers out on their porch so the blast for the whole neighborhood. And it was just like a neighborly, fun vibe for every block party that I had been a part of. The biggest part of it, this is like a big event that we would have during it called the Michael Jackson dance contest. Like whatever Michael Jackson song was popping at that time, I think it may have been Thriller at the time that I'm, and everybody would know all the dance moves to all the Michael Jackson videos. Like if he had a video on MTV or something like that, everybody knew all the dances. If it was Beat It, Thriller, or whatever. So that was the big event for the block party. And all my friends, me and my friends, it would be BJ, who you met on the last episode. It would be, or Beej, Tootley, rest in peace to Tootley. Nate, I talked about Nate on my last episode. Me and him got in that little fight, but we was always boys. Ryan, Ed, Ed would come in and out. He lived on the block, but he would be there sometimes. Big Duke, big time in the record industry now. And then Vern, I wonder what's up with Vern and Kia. Even Kia would come out. She would be stuck in the house most of the time, but her mama let her out for the block party and all the little kids on the street. Now Beach was always a star. That's why I still look at him in that mindset because Beach would kill the Michael Jackson dance contest. And it was almost like we wasn't really like looking for a contest as much as we was looking like just for a Beach performance. Because nobody really wanted to go against Beach. I can't dance like that. You know, I just do a mean two-step. That's about all I do. But Beach's family is the Gordy family. He's from the Gordy family. So it's like his cousin is the Gordys. Like I think he got pictures with Barry Gordy. You know, it's just a part of his family, his musical family. And when they would have the Michael Jackson dance contest, Beach would go all out. He'd get the jacket. I don't think he had the jacket, so he'd just get like a red vest or something to put on, and then he'll put on like one of his grandma's gardening gloves or something like that. I don't know if he had a real shiny glove, but he'll just get it like a gardening glove. And he already had the Jerry curl. That was back in the Jerry curl days. So he had a little curl. He probably put a little curl down in front of his forehead or something. But Beach would always kill the dance contest. So it's the Michael Jackson dance contest time. They playing the Michael Jackson songs, but then the record just stops. And everybody runs to one end of the block. So we all run with the people, you know, and like you know, black folks when one person run, everybody run. So we all run to the end of the block, and at the end of the block, and actually BJ's driveway, there's a man on the ground, and the man was Joe, BJ's neighbor, Joe. And I say a man, but Joe was probably around maybe 20. He probably about 6, 7 years older than us. We were probably like 12 or so, and he probably 19, 20. And he was on the driveway and he had been shot. Now, Joe and Keith were BJ's neighbors, and they were the freshest kids on the block. I mean, even to this day, when I think of fresh, I kind of see Joe and Keith in my mind. Like Keith was a little closer in age to us, so he went to the same. When we got to high school, he was going to high school with me. But Keith had a whole thing, like they had the freshest Adidas suits. Keith was the first guy I ever saw with the Jordans. Like he had Sky Jordans because he had small feet, and he was the first person I ever saw with Jordans. And then I went to go get Jordans, and I had big feet. I had to get the Air Jordans, but always the freshest. And Keith had a way. Keith and Joe, they had a way that they walked, and it was like a cool walk. Even their walk was fresh. Like he had like a double step to his walk. I remember his foot would go up and down when he walked. And I always thought that was just, even his walk was fresh. But here it is. Joe was in my best friend's driveway and he had been shot. And everybody was yelling. There was a lot of commotion. And I was just right there in the middle of it. Then they called the paramedics and the ambulance came. And I remember when the EMT workers were with them, they had a pair of scissors. And Joe had on a Adidas, like one of those leaf Adidas shirts, like just a t-shirt because it was hot outside. And they had some scissors and they had to cut the Adidas shirt. And I remember in my mind, I was like, dang, that's a fresh shirt. And they just cutting it. I remember thinking that it was a white and blue Adidas shirt. I can see it in my mind. Another thing I remember is his mother made the worst sound. The sound of a mother crying about her son is like a jarring noise that I can still remember that noise to this day. It stays with you. And they did what they were doing. I could see the hole in his chest, and they took him away. And that was our block party. And me and BJ sat on the curb eating hot dogs, and the music was turned down low. And we had got word, it was just like a somber feeling, and we had got word that Joe was a DOA. And I didn't know what DOA meant. So I asked Beach, what's DOA? And Beach told me that Joe was dead. And it was just a surreal feeling because we were just getting ready for this Michael Jackson dance contest. So that year, there was no Michael Jackson dance contest. And the following year, no Michael Jackson dance contest. And then they just stopped having the block party because some other things had happened. They just stopped doing block parties. That was the end of it. I want to say condolences to the Day family. Mrs. Day, condolences. She passed away, and then rest in peace to Keith Day as well. He passed away a few years ago as well, and that was my man. I saw him not too long ago too at like an event in E-Course, and he was just so happy to see me. He was always, when we was kids, he was just super nonchalant. But then when he saw me at this event, I mean, he couldn't even like walk away from me. He just kind of just stayed with me the whole time. Shannon, Man, I ain't seen you in so long. So rest in peace to the whole Day family. Yeah, that's my story. That's my story.
Mm, mm, mm.
When did violence become a tradition in the summer? When did Memorial Day in Chicago become Bloody Memorial Day? Let's talk about it.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
The trouble with Memorial Day weekend in Chicago. Every city has an unspoken calendar, days when you can feel the shift in the air before the news even confirms it. In Chicago, Memorial Day weekend has become one of those days, not because of the parades or the barbecues or the flags or the 3-day sales, but because there's a brace for something else: violence. If you're from Chicago, especially the South or the West Sides, you know what I'm talking about. I'm from Detroit and I lived in Chicago over a decade, and I can feel it. The weather breaks, the coats get put away, the windows roll down, and then it begins. In 2021, Memorial Day weekend in Chicago ended with 39 people shot and 9 people killed. In 2016, 69 people were shot and 6 killed. It's a pattern that stretches back for years and still continues to repeat itself. The numbers fluctuate, but the media headlines don't. Bloody start to summer. Memorial Day mayhem. On Tuesday morning, there's news reports with crime scene tape blowing in the breeze like confetti after a parade. But it wasn't always like this. I came from a time when Memorial Day meant family, your uncle on the grill, your cousin came in from out of town. You saw family you hadn't seen since Christmas. Maybe there was that one auntie that came outside to eat some hot dogs and hamburgers with the rest of the family for a little bit before she went back upstairs. Maybe I'm just talking about my own family there, but we'll ride bikes and run around and dance to music, Michael Jackson dance contest. Memorial Day meant it was to kick off the summer, the signal that school was almost over and everything was about to open up. But then something changed. Maybe it was slow at first, a shooting down the block, a fight in the park, a cousin who didn't make it to next year's cookout. Then over time, Memorial Day became something different, something darker, a weekend of worry. It's easy to point fingers: gangs, guns, poverty, the city, the cops, the schools, the system. Yeah, and all that plays a role, but beyond all of that, there's something else that we don't talk about enough: tradition. Because violence can become a tradition too. And that's the real trouble. The tradition, the expectation. We've reached the point where some people expect Memorial Day to be violent. They talk about it like it's a season, as if it just happens when the weather turns, a twisted kind of ritual. The media contributes to it. News cameras wait ready on the corners, and they count the bodies like it's sports scores. The other sides of Chicago and downtown, the north side, the north suburbs, they just shake their head at it, and the cycle repeats year after year. It's become a tradition. How can we shift the tradition? Because the same streets where bullets flew is also home to block parties, kickball games, double dutch competitions, and they still are. They're not always just bullets flying. People are having a good time on the same blocks. Then for every headline about shootings, there's 20 people who stepped in to break up a fight, who fed the whole neighborhood from a barbecue grill, who passed out flyers about community events while walking down the block. There is resistance happening, but it doesn't make the news. Teachers checking in on students before the weekend, pastors keeping their churches open late, activists and OGs like somebody I'm talking to later on who connect with people. Like, nah, not this weekend, not on my watch. Even the young people, they know that this is getting old. Most of them are sick of it and tired of it. They just might not know how to say it, but if you listen, you can hear them. And maybe that's where we come in. Those of us who remember the old cookouts, who remember the real Memorial Day weekend, those of us who saw the turn happen in real time. Maybe it's time we start telling those stories again, the cookout, the bike races, the Michael Jackson dance contest, not as fairy tales, but as reminders, proof that there is another way, proof that our neighborhoods were never meant to be war zones. Memorial Day should be about remembrance, about honor and sacrifice, not adding new names to that list. So yeah, there's a trouble with Memorial Day in Chicago, and it's real, it's tragic, it's frustrating, it's layered, but it's fixable. All it takes is enough of us deciding that we're tired of that tradition. Let's start a new tradition, a peaceful one. I saw it happen in real time. A couple of shootings stopped all block parties, and everybody started to be fearful instead of enjoying our community. And we all enjoyed the community, but it was this turning in to our own families instead of opening things up to everybody. People became more insulated. And I believe that the media has something to do with that as well, because these stories started just to be so prevalent that people started to be scared. You know, I enjoyed my childhood, even in the 80s, you know, when the crack era and all those kind of things. And people paint that picture as though it was always bad. But honestly, the bad was just like this much in my life, this much. But playing basketball at the center, and we had our fun. But people remember the bad. Even far as a writer and as a storyteller, you tell the stories that get the most attention, and people's attention go towards the bad. Failure is more interesting. That's what one of my the author that I listened to, he said failure is more interesting, despair is more interesting, violence is super interesting. But we got to change the story. We got to tell some good stories too. So thank you for listening. All this talk about gun violence in the summer, is it really real, or is it all just hype and clickbait? Let's talk about it.
What's the capital of Zaire? I don't know that. Keeping it real.
Does crime really spike in the summer? I seem to always call BS on the news. When I see news, I'm more on the side of BS. But does it really spike? Let's see. In cities like Detroit and Chicago, when the first 90-degree temperature approaches, the headlines start writing themselves. The city braced for a summer crime wave. Mayhem in the heat, another bloody Memorial Day. If you grew up with flashing news tickers and front page stories, you might believe that violence is always exploding when the temperature gets hot. But if we take a closer look at the data and see how the news is packaged, it shows a stubborn gap between reality and the story we're being told. Here are 6 things that might change your mind about this summer crime wave. Number 1, seasonal bumps are real, but they're not apocalyptic. Yeah, crime goes up in the summer. The Bureau of Justice Statistics looked at almost 20 years of data and found that violent crime usually rises around late spring and summer, then drops in the winter. But here's the thing. It's only a 10% increase, not double or triple digit like the news sometimes makes it sound. The way it's covered can make it feel way bigger than it really is. Number 2, heat headlines get highlighted. A study from Pew Research showed that local news talks about violent crime, especially shootings, a lot more than it actually happens. In 1 year, homicides were only 1% of the crimes reported to police, but they made up 60% of the news time. Another study from Marquette Law found something similar. In one city, murders were less than 0.5% of real crimes, but they showed up in over half of the crime stories. Why does this happen? Because shocking stories get attention. There's an old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. And in the summer, more people are outside, it's longer daylight, so there's more video to capture, more chances to grab views. Number 3, perception versus reality. When FBI shared this 2024 report, it showed that murders had dropped by almost 12% across the country. Crime is actually going down. But at the same time, most people believe that crime was worse. Why is that? Researchers call it the mean world effect. If you're seeing crime stories on the news, social media, and even on podcasts, you start to think that the world is more dangerous than it really is. You feel like there's trouble everywhere. Number 4, the heat story is bigger than the poverty story. Researchers at UC Berkeley and UC San Diego found that even a small rise in temperature, just 1 degree, can lead to more violence. People get irritated faster, so there's more chance for conflict when everyone outside is hot. But the heat isn't the whole story. Things like poverty, rundown neighborhoods, and lack of support services make the problem worse. It's all connected. Still, the headlines skip the deeper reasons and just say the hot weather, summer is causing violence. But the truth is a lot more complicated than that. Number 5, don't believe the hype. It can all seem like crime gets worse in the summer, but a big part of that is how the media is telling the story. Fear gets clicks. News often focuses on violent weekends, even when crime is down overall. For people living in already stressed neighborhoods, seeing their zip code on repeat in crime coverage is exhausting. It drains hope and makes change feel impossible. Cities also pour money into the emergency policing patrols and any programs that they have, but they ignore long-term solutions like economic opportunities. It's a money grab, so the quick fixes keep getting all the funding, but the lasting change gets nothing and gets left behind. Number 6, we need some narrative shifting. Some news outlets are starting to shift how they tell the story. In cities like Philadelphia and Minneapolis, stations now include simple context banners like year-to-date shootings is down 14%. It's a small line, but it brings honesty to the headlines. And in places like where I'm from, in Detroit, a few stations have begun to tell their summer news stories with footage of block parties and neighborhood events before talking about these crime stories. It's a reminder that most warm weather stories are joyful, not violent. So summer does bring out more people. It's more heat, more chances for conflict. So yes, crime goes up a bit, but the media makes a small spike seem like a big surge, making tragic events feel like a yearly pattern. The truth is we're safer than the constant, consistent headlines make it seem. If we start asking for news that shows the full picture, not just the fear, we can shift this story. Maybe the next generation won't grow up dreading Memorial Day or just a sunny day. The real headline would read, brighter days ahead, falling crime, and endless sunshine in the city. Yeah, when I think about this talk, I never really believe the news. When the news is just saying, because when they say Detroit and Chicago, you know who they talking about. They're talking about black people. And when they tell these stories, even, I'm going to tell you, even some of the TV shows that they have, where they have these crime TV shows where it's a drug dealer like Snowfall or BMF or all these shows, sometimes I don't like those shows that much, to be real with you. I watch them, and some of them, the storylines are okay. None of them are done in really good storytelling, but they're okay. But many times they'll overemphasize the crime. Now I grew up in the BMF neighborhood. I did see shooting, and it was dangerous at times. Don't get me wrong. But that ain't the gist of my childhood at all. It was playing bikes and playing basketball, and it wasn't like we was fighting every day. Now, the people who say they were, I don't believe them. There's a lot of liars out there, too, who claim that every day was a bad day. There's some stupid idiots who got themselves in trouble, but most of my childhood was not ducking from gunfire, even though the news would make you believe that, and these TV shows would make you believe it. So I just had to look a little deeper, and when I looked a little deeper, it's not as bad as they say it is, and actually it's getting better. So, all right. I had a phone call with a real one, and this is a real episode about real issues. So I talked to somebody doing some real work in Chicago. So listen in to this phone call.
Hello.
Hey, Reverend Hood.
What's up, bro?
This Shannon.
I know who you is, man. I know who your big head is, man. What's going on, boy?
I'm doing good. I'm doing real good. I was thinking of you. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
I'm thinking of you because I was doing an episode, and I don't want to put you in the wrong, but I know you do this work, right? So it's been a late summer this year, you know, like it ain't gotten hot. I usually say the heat turn on Memorial Day, but it didn't this Memorial Day. It's still a little nip. It ain't really hot yet. But I was doing an episode on how the heat brings other things along. You know, I'm in Detroit, so it brings other things along with it too.
Man,
Is it not real, or am I just imagining? But is it like a tradition, a gun violence that happens in the summer months that we see?
there's a correlation between usually Memorial Day, when the heat get the hottest at the beginning between spring and going into summer, and violence. It's been forever, but in particularly the last 20 years, I could tell you how it's like, seems like it's part of a equilibrium of our air. Like it's like turn everything up. My attitude, my anger, everything gets turned up. And it usually happens around Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wasn't in Chicago this Memorial Day. I just started doing this stuff. It was so bad that about 4 years ago, I made it my business not to be in Chicago during Memorial Day.
That's something else. Okay.
I made him because one time I had to turn around and I had crossed into another state and I had told them, don't call me for nothing because it was just
they
too
gonna
much.
call your phone gonna be ringing off the hook.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I understand because you taking care of all the families and everything else. Yeah.
Man, we got across that state line and the brother called me. He was a former gang chief. He said, Red, you know, I know you didn't want nobody to call you, but I gotta tell you, man. He said, a couple of people here got shot. The ambulance came over there to get him. Then they started fighting with the ambulance driver. Then the police came, about 12 squad cars and 6 of the paddy wagons. And then the police was out there fighting. I said, okay, I'm turning around. Right. Oh man, I talked about Chicago Police Department so bad that day. Even the gangbangers felt sorry.
Hey, let me warn you. I'm kind of family into this because I be doing this with my mom and my dad and stuff. But
Okay.
I'm recording. I ain't gonna use nothing you don't want me to use. But I'm just
I ain't gonna say nothing you can't use.
I'm letting you know ahead of time. I'm family in it. I be doing it with my friends, but I'm letting you know. So you know,
Man, let me tell you something about me. I even told the feds, okay? I say, I'm not gonna say nothing I can't say again.
I hear that. I hear that.
Because it's too hard to try to remember.
Yeah,
right. So
to try to remember what not to say around this person and what to say around this person. Just be real about it, though. And that's the one thing about you, I would say 100%. You're the most real, approachable person in this work that beyond me, I just be like me calling right now, just kind of just having an open ear for me, just right offhand, you know. I ask you this one other question, like what role does the media play in that though? Because it seems like it get touted up so much, and sometimes I have I don't believe the media totally all the time, you know, but then the media always plays up this gun violence that happens in the summertime, the Memorial Day time and beyond, you know. What
well,
do you think
I'm
it's
gonna tell
something
you
to
what's
that?
going to happen, and I want you to remember this. Okay, so I'm gonna use Chicago case in point. It didn't happen on Memorial Day in Chicago. Violence was down for the first time in my freaking lifetime between me and you. You know, people only can go by media and stuff like that. But for the first time in my life, I can remember. But why is that? I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But I am very interested, you know, and I'm just talking about Chicago. But in any major city, every year this time, between Indiana and Chicago, a train get robbed full of guns. Every year.
Yeah. I think it's something to that. I agree with you. Yeah.
So how does happen every year?
And then it becomes like this big media story every year on the same time. And then they got almost like it's almost like a sports thing. How many got shot and how many got killed?
That's my point. So I think it's more than the media. I think it's part of the white elites. It's part of their enjoyment. It's part of their enjoyment, man. Because I ain't just started thinking like this. I've been thinking like this for years. And I would tell people exactly what's gonna happen, when it was gonna happen. They said, "How you know?" I said, "It happened every year. You don't pay attention."
Yeah. You can almost you can call it. That's why I'm talking about it, because I called it the first warm day. Like the first warm day is but it's all like delivered over the media. You saying it's a bigger machine that's at work. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. I think it's a bigger machine, but the media plays a role in it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I got it because I'm going to my mom's birthday today. We're about to head over to
okay.
But I'm gonna ask you this, and I don't want to hurry through this either. Tell me about Rashawn.
My grandson?
Yeah.
The average 15-year-old just made the basketball team. Well, he had made 16. Yeah, just made the basketball team, starting guard, 4'11". You know, became a point guard. Yeah.
He's that short, he could play. Yeah.
Oh my God. And
he had them handles.
For the first time, he turned me down. I ain't gonna say he turned me down. He said, "Look, Grandpa, I need to be practicing on my skills, and I'm going, to hang out with my basketball crew, and that's what we're doing now." And This is a true story. For the first time in his life, he got on a train and went to the south side from the west side of Chicago and came up dead in the alley. First time in his life
And he
ever got on a
lived on the
train.
west side and just traveled to the south side.
Yeah,
To go play.
because these schools is a
No,
mess
that's how you
now.
do when you're a baller.
Yeah.
You go to other neighborhoods, you ball.
Right.
I'm an old baller back in the day. You
Yeah,
play sports too. You go to other neighborhoods and ball.
that's why I couldn't say nothing because I was a baller.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't say nothing because I was saying I wanted to say something. I said, man, your butt used to go, and I was younger than him. I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
I used to travel from the suburbs, from Bellwood, all the way to the west side of Chicago just to play some basketball
Yep.
at
100%.
College High School or up there at Malcolm X. Ain't nothing but vice lords and stuff in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care.
Yeah. No, I was the same way. Other neighborhoods, we didn't have a gang culture as much here, but the thing was you just go to other neighborhoods. We go to the white neighborhoods too. Go ball. They had the threes. They could shoot the threes. That's man. But that I'm so sorry to hear that story. And then I know so much of the community had came out too. But good talking to you always, man. But thanks for taking the time. We got to do this longer one day. I'm gonna set that up. And that's Reverend Robin Hood. He's a longtime community activist and organizer and pastor, anti-violence advocate in Chicago. For decades, he's been on the front lines, mediating conflicts, comforting families, and holding public officials accountable. He's big on that, real big on that. And when I think about even the way I describe him, we kind of got to change that narrative. Yeah, those are all things that he does, but he's just like one of the realest people I know. I just called him on the fly, and just a person who loves his community. When we talk about it in these militarized terms, like anti-violence advocate and mediating conflicts. We say these things, but taking care of his family, taking care of his community, taking care of his neighborhood, and I think we have to change that tradition. It's an awareness. It starts with that awareness. Reverend Robin Hood, he lost his grandson, Rashawn Hood, to gun violence, and that was a sad story. Condolences to the family for that. But one of the realest guys I know, for real. One of the realest guys. So we gonna call him more often, since I know he pick up the phone whenever I call. But I want you all to enjoy the warm weather. They say the weather's supposed to break this weekend. I'm excited about that. I got to get outside to the backyard, get my workout routine together so I can hit that on a daily basis, probably 4 times a week or so. But let's talk about these stories in the comments and be respectful. If you wouldn't say it to my face, don't say it in the comments. I know that don't work, but I'm just telling you that. Don't say it in the comments if you won't say it to my face. Let me put this back up here real quick. Make sure you like and subscribe to Shannon Cason's Homemade. Be a friend. Leave a comment down below. Let's have a conversation. I'm at Shannon Cason on Instagram, TikTok, all the different social media sites. I'm at Shannon Cason. Join the Patreon. Patreon.com/Shannon Cason, $ Shannon Cason on Cash App. And if you're interested in workshops, speaking engagements, or merch, go to ShannonCason.com. I'd love to see you over there too. All right. Where my mom at? Enjoy the rest of the day.
Now that's homemade.